I was playing Arc Raiders, about to extract, when in the distance, faintly, I heard 2 words. Warily, I responded the same.
Don't shoot!
I emerged into the open in a Mexican standoff. Were they gonna shoot me? Was I, God forbid, gonna shoot them? But no. They sprinted past me, and then we went and waited in a bunker together for the lift to come for about 2 minutes, and the entire time I was thinking, are you gonna shoot me now? Is this it, Brutus? But no, I made it to Speranza alive, and I thought that was weird, and then it happened again. Why are some Arc Raiders banding together like this? Why are PvPers being punished just for playing the game as intended, and will it last? You may have heard tales of the friendliness of Arc Raiders players, how in this high-stakes PvPvE environment, people are coming together and helping each other out rather than shooting each other in the face and or body. The reason why remains a mystery. Why are Arc Raiders players so keen to lend a helping hand, and so frustrated when others decide to shoot them for their own benefit? As an extraction shooter, Arc Raiders is by its nature a high-risk, tense experience. When out completing quests, collecting resources, or grinding out points in your weekly trials, a single player shooting you can cause a loss of all of your progress. This, as you can imagine, can be frustrating, leading a substantial number of players towards taking a friendlier approach. To get an academic perspective on the matter, Eurogamer spoke to MA PhD social researcher Lewis Millard on the matter. His PhD study is on AI, anti-tech resistance, and neo-Luddite activism, so it seemed appropriate to bring him into the world of Arc Raiders and its player base of very literal anti-tech resistors. Millard explained that his opinion has changed the more he examined this unique movement.
I've seen a lot more people going over to not PvPing, a lot more people frowning at PvP and punishing PvP players. I would have said, from a sociological perspective, it's based on this concept of power and authority. The games industry is focused on making these linear, lack of options games which take the autonomy away from the player. So when a player gets a choice whether to play in a certain way, they automatically side with other people. In this case, that means not doing PvP. It's a subculture of players, people who have banded together and have decided they don't want this linear non-option approach to games. They want to take a stand. All movements are inherently political, which is fine. This isn't specifically political in a manner, but the social action is there. They're saying, as social actors, we're going to make a choice when we get the choice to go against what we're told.
As an extraction shooter, you don't have to kill other players. You can go in, get loot, take down some environmental enemies, then dip out and return to your base. Success isn't predicated on being the last one standing, unlike in the unfathomably popular Battle Royale genre. That is, unless you have a task to deal a certain amount of damage to fellow raiders, but even in this circumstance, I've heard tales of players asking to deal damage to others that they meet in the wild, saying they'll drop bandages afterwards just so the bullet-ridden subject can heal up and get on with their life. And then, after bullets have consensually flown, they actually do? It's almost sad how surprised I am that these players actually stick to their word. So, with stories like these spreading by word of mouth, Arc Raiders has struck some as quite a friendly game to play. Many raiders think first and shoot later, opting to hash things out over voice comms rather than let their bullets do the talking. Or even just rely on emotes to ascertain who they can trust. Multiple times, like the anecdote I shared at the beginning, I've been near an elevator and heard in the distance the ever so quiet refrain of,
"Hey, don't shoot!"
This one emote is a shorthand for friendly, please don't shoot me, I beg you, in Arc Raiders. But some people don't respond how you expect. There was this time when I was down by an Arc and this guy appeared, killed the Arc, looted it, then went back and forth between me and the Arc, bandages held tantalisingly in his hand. He let me die. It was a weird power move, but he didn't shoot me on sight, so I respect that at least. Others have felt intense guilt when they unconsciously enact the kill-on-sight approach to solo play that other games have normalised, but instead of fury, are startled to hear verbal sadness flow freely from other players upon being knocked down. Although I'm sharing all these heartwarming hallmark anecdotes, this anti-PvP approach is still a subculture, not the norm. Others are staying true to the PvP portion of Arc Raiders, thriving in a game where proper aim and smart play can lead one to overflowing loot from knocked out opponents. There's even those who feign friendliness, act like their fellow anti-PvPers, then turn around and stab you in the back when that extraction point is within sight. We couldn't resist asking Millard how these people are characterised from a sociological perspective. You know, out of curiosity, and not a burning resentment at historic betrayal.
I would say those players are 100% abusing the amount of power you get from taking a stand with other players. I think it's awful, obviously. Sociologically, you get these people who defect and change their opinions based on influence, subculture, blah blah blah. It's not the nicest thing to do, but if the point of the game is to somewhat reflect real life, you'd absolutely, in those situations, find people who abuse that kindness. But that's also why people punish PvP players, so it all fits.
While, of course, I do not enjoy being stabbed in the back, it's always lurking at the back of my mind that the people I've teamed up with could do it. And this, I must admit, is thrilling. In this era of Battle Royale supremacy, we've been trained not to trust fellow players, so to go against the grain is its own kind of rebellion, and rebellion is a thrill. All of this may be bigger than Arc Raiders though. We live in a very divided time. With social media, the news, and wider political context, it's more unavoidable than ever to encounter people who you disagree with. Some platforms, like Facebook, have even been discovered to deliberately push inflammatory posts to get you to spend longer on their platform. In Arc Raiders, people are expressing a latent thought that we're just kind of fed up with this division and momentarily want a bit of escapism and camaraderie.
You're in the foxhole with your friends. You see it in games like Helldivers 2 and in Battlefield when you're trying to revive people in your squad. The world nowadays, the people who play games now, are kind of love and peace. They're kind to each other. That message spreading around the world at the minute leads people to question why you'd want to be difficult with other players when you can just be helpful and come away in a better position.
But even Millard admits that he doesn't know what it is about Arc Raiders specifically that promotes the kindness we're seeing. It's a mystery and yet seems to gradually, at the moment at least, be becoming the de facto way to play the game. There is, of course, the other side of the argument. User Garbaggio Greco stated outright, as long as there is PvP in this game, it will never change. Stop complaining and come up with strategies to combat against it, courting lots of agreement from the community at large. Others note that the game is explicitly marked as PvP, and to get upset about that is a touch silly. Which, full disclosure, I do agree with. I've had my fair share of being either put out of my misery after falling victim to overconfidence and taking on 2 arcs simultaneously on a free loadout, and shot point blank while exploring. It's frustrating sometimes, sure, but PvP is part of the game. There's also a degree of toxic anti-PvP behaviour, with the moderator of the Arc Raiders subreddit stating outright in a post that people who rail against those who engage in PvP are not welcome. They wrote, "You are allowed to have an opinion that such players' morals in the game are not good, or that they are villain players or whatnot. That is fine, for that is what they are, but any time an outside insult is going to be used on people over gameplay, you are getting the hammer of doom." If anti-PvP is in danger of becoming toxic, which seems like a wild catch-22, would a PvE mode make the game better and provide a home for these anti-PvP players? Or would it take away the risk factor that makes this subculture special? Millard thinks it would kill the vibe, as the kids say.
It would remove the nuance. If you go into that non-organically, if you're forced to be a non-PvPer, it does take away the fun and the camaraderie. It takes away the organic nature of it, and as such, the bonds you form disappear. Without the threat, it goes. I think the non-PvP players, they'll either become the game or die off. New players will pick up the game and won't be in touch with the social media aspect of not PvPing, or just won't like that style and start PvPing, so the PvPers will grow over time. I do think unless non-PvPers become a driving force of the game's continuation, or an integral part of the game, they will eventually die out.
This has actually already happened in Sea of Thieves. I had a read through the comments on Eurogamer's original news story on this anti-PvP movement, and user Belgarath shed light on how PvP can put off newcomers, leading to a wholly unappealing and unapproachable game ecosystem as a whole. PvPers always end up with sweats harassing new players and driving off players, making it slowly die. While with PvP-only games, you can often address this through the use of skill-based matchmaking. They go on to explain what it was like to play Sea of Thieves when it came out on PS5. We were constantly attacked by PC and Xbox players who have hundreds of hours on the game, just because they could, to grief the new players. I had to turn crossplay off to limit the pool to only fellow PS5 users to stop this from happening as much. Arc Raiders isn't immune to this eventuality. The anti-PvP approach makes the game far more welcoming to newcomers and, if it continues, potentially prolongs the life cycle of Arc Raiders. With a balanced risk of being helped by another player just as much as being killed by them, Arc Raiders would stand a higher chance than other extraction shooters to keep new players coming back. These players could actually stick around even years after the game's release, as it's not immediately impossible to make any kind of progress because legacy players are busy picking you off before you've even seen your first bombardier. For what it's worth, it's clear at least to me that the friendlier moments in Arc Raiders are only as special as they are because there's a risk of betrayal. It takes a lot to put your life and loot in the hands of someone who would gain a lot from taking you out. Villainising PvP-focused players would lessen the magic of such moments, making the entire game a little worse. It is perhaps better to cherish those who lend an open hand, rather than decry those who stick to their closed fists. What do you think of this whole situation? Are you an anti-PvPer, or do you treat fellow raiders with as much sympathy as Arcs? Or are you one of those wild cards who let people trust you until the very last second? I'm not really an anti-PvPer as much as I'm a you go your way and I'll go mine kind of hermit player, scuttling around to loot and hiding from 99% of raiders. If you like this video, please like it so I can continue to make more Arc Raiders videos, and subscribe to Eurogamer for more videos about video games almost every single day. Now I'm going to go and continue to admire the retrofuturism of Arc Raiders because they really ate. So I'll see you folks next time.